This episode is brought to you by Progressive, a leader in boat insurance. Welcome aboard to Carefree Boating. Here, we don't worry about the what-ifs, because we explore with Progressive Boat Insurance for as little as $100 per year for a basic liability policy. Progressive also offers a variety of other coverages and can help you cover repair costs when you need it. And with discounts like multi-policy, safety courses, responsible driver, and more, your mind can really float free. Cruise on over to Progressive.com to get a quote today and see if you could save. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Rate and discounts not available in all states or situations.
It's the 77 WABC News Hour.
Talking the news with Noam Laden.
All the news you need to know with Joe Nolan, traffic, Justin Ellick, sports. And now,
Talking the news with Noam
on 77 WABC.
Yes, that's me. Good morning. It is Wednesday, June 25th. Your forecast from the 77 WABC Weather Center. Sunshine, a few afternoon clouds, hot again. The high 99 tonight and overnight. Partly cloudy, low 67, and then it's back to more tolerable weather. On Thursday, sun and clouds, high 79. I like that a lot better. If you are walking out the door with us right now, 74 and clear in Riverhead out on Long Island, 78 and clear in Alpine in New Jersey, and it's 83 and clear right outside our Midtown studios.
The top 5 at 5.
Mamdani stuns Cuomo. Con Ed's trying to keep the AC on. A deadly battle over town pride in New Jersey. Where will the homeless go in Tom's River? That Bed-Stuy aquarium is back, but some are upset about it. All right, let's get into it at 5:01. One more day of heat and high humidity. Just so you don't feel so bad about it, about 228 million Americans are dealing with this high heat, humidity. Maybe they're not getting it as bad as we are here. Of course, the big issue here has been keeping the power back on, and we'll get to some of the outage numbers in just a moment. But Con Ed yesterday asking New Yorkers, they're going to do it again today. If you got the AC on, don't run the dishwasher, don't run the dryer and the washing machine, because that just plays into that demand, that surge for power. So no matter where you went yesterday, people were, of course, complaining about the fact that it's so damn hot outside.
This is what I'm using, my fan, and I'm going to work.
Drinking lots of water and making sure that I'm staying fully hydrated.
I'm staying inside.
Going to my office and staying inside.
Got to get down to the piers, yeah? Manhattan is an island, but guys, get down the water, feel the breeze in your face, in your hair. You know what I'm talking about.
Now, there were some neighborhoods where the power went out. Thank God local pools were open. They were just completely packed.
Best place to be in town. Wonderful. Yeah. The water's spectacular. It's you jump in, you hang out for a while, and you cool down. It's perfect.
Now, yesterday, this time, there was about 15,000 people across the city. When you consider a city of 8 million people, that's not a lot, but still, if you're one of those people, brutal, because you can't run a fan or an air conditioner. So the numbers we were getting as of last night, and they have not updated it, but about 7,000 people in New York City, no power. In New Jersey, altogether, it is about, I'm going to do a quick calculation here, it's about 22,000 people without power. And PSE&G Long Island is about 5,000 people have no power out there. Now, on any given day, you have people who don't have power, but of course some of this is no doubt connected to the surge in demand, because everybody's running the AC, fans, whatever else in their homes. So 99 will be the high today, but as I said, the good news is just one more day of this. You'll see by this evening things will start to cool off just a little bit. The low overnight will be much lower than it has been, and then tomorrow, sun and clouds, high 79. Friday, it's going to even be cooler. So just one more day. 5:03. This is the big shock that will be talked about across the nation today. Democratic Socialist Zohran Mamdani declaring victory in the New York City Democratic mayoral primary last night. He did so from his rooftop victory party in Long Island City. This was about midnight last night.
After launching this campaign with the vision of a city that every New Yorker could afford, we have won. We have won from Harlem to Bay Ridge. We have won from Jackson Heights to Port Richmond. We have won from Maspeth to Chinatown. We have won because New Yorkers have stood up for a city they can afford.
Now, you might guess that down at Andrew Cuomo's campaign party last night, which was in the West Village, a lot quieter there. He conceded to Mamdani. It was about 11 o'clock or so, maybe a little earlier.
And I'm proud of the effort that we put forth, and I'm proud of the issues that we discussed. But tonight was not our night. Tonight was Assemblyman Mamdani's night, and he put together a great campaign, and he touched young people and inspired them and moved them and got them to come out and vote.
Back over at Mamdani headquarters, they were singing, they were dancing late into the night.
A city where they can do more than just struggle. One where those who toil in the night can enjoy the fruits of their labor in the day. Where hard work is repaid with a stable life. Where 8 hours on the factory floor or behind the wheel of a cab is enough to pay the mortgage.
No doubt the Democratic Party is going to look closely at this race in New York City and try to figure out what it all means. Meanwhile, Mamdani telling this crowd last night he's ready for the general election.
Where buses are fast and free. Where childcare doesn't cost more than CUNY. And where public safety keeps us truly safe. And it's where the mayor will use their power to reject Donald Trump's fascism and to govern our city as a model for the Democratic Party.
So lots of questions this morning. We know that the Mayor Eric Adams, is to run as an independent in the fall. Curtis Lewa was unopposed last night, so he easily won his primary. And then the question is, will Andrew Cuomo, the former governor, stay in the race? He's on some other lines, potentially could be on others. Would it be a 5-way general election race? We just don't know yet. Last night, the former governor did not rule out running come the fall, but I imagine he has to gather with all of his campaign folks and see whether it's really worth it. Mayor Adams weighing in on all this last night, and he says, when he looks around the landscape now, the way it is, he's still the most qualified for the job.
One person doesn't have a record. The other person is running from his record. And I have a record.
And he says he's not worried about Curtis Lewa and the Republican Party. He says, bring on Mamdani, bring on Cuomo if he decides to run.
What is your record? My record is clear. Decreasing crime, increasing jobs, navigating us out of COVID, navigating us out of 237,000 migrants and asylum seekers.
Of course, it was a brutal day to be going to the polls. You had those 7-8 days of early voting. That was huge, 385,000. But it was interesting to hear what was on people's minds as they went to vote yesterday.
I know who I'm going to vote for, okay? I've decided already. Cuomo.
I did my research this week to make sure I knew what I was going for, and I wanted to make sure that all the candidates aligned with my values.
And when you talk to these people who were heading out yesterday, just like the early voting, the ones who were motivated by Mamdani's run for office were the ones who were running to the polls.
It definitely seems the way that things have been trending. I feel like a lot of young people are really connecting with him. So, I could definitely see that happening.
I think it's exciting to have shake-up in the race.
Absolutely exciting. I think we need some hope right now. We need something that's different.
All right. Fascinating time in New York City. That race in November will be a wild, and nobody, of course, will cover it better than 77 WABC. So make sure you're here all summer and into the fall election. WABC News Time 5:09. That ceasefire holding in the Middle East between Iran and Israel. That, of course, after President Trump got very angry at both Iran and Israel for firing missiles at each other after that ceasefire had been signed off on. State Department spokesman Tammy Bruce acknowledged the president used some salty language yesterday. He used the F word, actually, while saying he wasn't happy with either country. Here she was yesterday.
Of course, we always appreciate about President Trump is you never really have to guess at what he's thinking.
No, that's true. She added that any ceasefire deal is fragile. But I will point out, Israel seems to believe this ceasefire will hold because their version of Homeland Security has told the Israeli people this morning that malls, restaurants, stores, schools, camps all open today, which they haven't been over the last 12 or 13 days.
The president has believed from the beginning that diplomacy can stop wars, that it is the thing that we should rely on.
Meanwhile, an early intelligence assessment of the U.S. military strikes on Iran reportedly claims it does not and did not completely destroy the country's nuclear program, but likely set it back for a while.
Multiple outlets are reporting about the highly classified document produced by the Defense Intelligence Agency and U.S. Central Command. The reports say the U.S. believes there was significant damage, but that it was mostly to structures above ground. The White House has slammed the reporting, calling the alleged assessment flat out wrong. I'm Chris Carangio.
Now, it is interesting how everybody covers these stories around the world. In Israel, they said it wasn't completely taken out either, and that may have been what those strikes were after the hours of the ceasefire being signed off on. You know, they fired missiles at Iran to maybe finish off what had been done at those nuclear sites. And Democrats continue to be angry about how all this was carried out. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries says the Trump administration has several questions to answer regarding the U.S. airstrikes on Iran. The New York Democrat asked during a press conference yesterday why intelligence and military leaders postponed yesterday's classified briefing for Congress.
What are they running away from? Why was this briefing, which is already days late, postponed?
He says Americans need a full understanding of what took place.
There apparently are reasons to believe that that was a blatant misrepresentation made by Donald Trump to the American people. Is it in fact the case that Iran's nuclear program has been completely and totally obliterated?
President Trump's border czar says Iranian terror cells are now a significant threat to Americans.
Tom Homan's comments come after the U.S. got involved in the ongoing Israel-Iran conflict and bombed Iranian nuclear sites. Homan suggested the cells are involved in a lot of crime and stressed the importance of border security at this time. His comments also follow a warning from Customs and Border Protection that the threat of sleeper cells in the U.S. has never been higher, but it cited no specific threats. I'm Brian Shook.
WABC News Time 5:13. Let's go overseas. Netherlands. That's where President Trump's taking part in the NATO summit. White House correspondent John Decker's there. He says the president will get Europe to agree to his defense spending demands, fresh off announcing that ceasefire between Israel and Iran.
The president will have a win. He will have a victory here in the Netherlands as it relates to getting every one of the 32 members of the NATO Defense Alliance to pay their fair share.
But Decker says another subject, the Ukraine-Russia war, is far from solved. He says this has been a point of frustration for the White House. The president no doubt will express his unhappiness with Vladimir Putin's refusal to sign off on a ceasefire deal.
The idea is getting the defense spending for each country up to 5% of their GDP within the next 10 years. This is an area of frustration for President Trump. He thought that he'd be able to put together a deal to end the war in Ukraine in a short amount of time. But as the president himself has said, it takes two to tango.
Meanwhile, the president signaling yesterday that China is being given the green light to now buy oil from Iran.
President Trump, in a post on Truth Social following the ceasefire, Israel and Iran, said that China can now continue to purchase oil from Iran, but he added that hopefully they will be purchasing plenty from the US too. The White House says this isn't a change in its sanctions policy, but it's a reference to the oil flows continuing through the Strait of Hormuz route, which had been threatened with closure following the US strikes on Iran's nuclear facilities over the weekend. China purchases about 90% of Iran's oil exports. Rebecca Bunden, Hong Kong.
All right, in a moment, we'll go down to Washington, where the Fed chair was meeting before Congress. We'll tell you what he had to say. But first, 5:15, let's head over to the 77 WABC Sports Desk. Good morning, Justin Ella.
Good morning to you, Noam Layden. We'll start here on the diamond. Out in Cincinnati, the Yankees lost their second straight to the Reds, this time 5-4 in 11 innings, and surrendering the 3-game series in the process. Spencer Steer and pinch hitter Gavin Lux had run-scoring singles in the 11th inning, and Cincinnati rallied from a 3-run deficit to claim the victory after Aaron Judge scored on Connor Phillips' wild pitch in the 11th for a 4-3 New York lead. The Yanks lost for the 9th time in 12 games, and their AL East lead was cut to 1 game, its smallest since April. They dropped to 1-6 in extra innings this year and were 1 for 21 with runners in scoring position and losing the first 2 games of the series. Ben Rice homered and Anthony Volpe had a 2-run triple in the 4th inning as the Yankees built a 3-0 lead. Bidding to become the Major League's first 10-game winner, Carlos Rodon pitched 6 shutout innings in his starting effort. The finale of this 3-game series is on tap tonight back in Cincy with the ace Max Fried scheduled to pitch for New York at what will be a 7:10 p.m. first pitch as they try to avoid a series sweep. As for the Mets, at home in Queens, they continued their losing ways as well in the form of a 7-4 loss to the Braves in the second game of a 4-game series against Atlanta. The Braves took advantage of 9 walks by 6 Mets pitchers. The Mets are 0-5 against its NL East rival this year, with all 5 losses coming in the past 8 days. After getting an encouraging performance from starter Frankie Montas in his Mets debut, the Mets blew a 3-0 lead and lost for the 10th time in 11 games. Game 3 of this 4-game set is tonight at Citi Field.
What's going on over there? Do we know?
No, we have no idea.
Huh. But, I mean, they're obviously playing bad baseball, but is there more? I mean, they were playing great, and all of a sudden they just fell apart.
It's the same with the Yankees, man. You know, I mean, with the Mets, though, you've completely seen their NL East lead go away. They're not in first place anymore. The Phillies, I believe, are up at least a game and a half, maybe 2.5 games, depending on what they did yesterday. But, they have fallen off big time. But, you know, some guys are still hitting, it seems like. I mean, listen, I'm not a Mets fan, so I'm not sitting down watching these Mets games start to finish. But guys that you want to see be hitting, you know, like Juan Soto, are out there producing. But the Mets just haven't been able to get many victories lately, and they've played a lot of in-division games as well. You know, they were just in Philadelphia. Now you got the Braves here at home. So you're playing a lot of these in-division games, and you can't get wins here, and you're going to find yourself in trouble if that's the case. So a lot of bouncing back to do, and we'll see if they can do it tonight back at Citi Field. Game 3 of this 4-game set. That's a 7:10 p.m. first pitch from Queens. That is your Sports Gnome, and I'm Justin Ellick on 77 WABC.
WABC News Time 5:20. Let's go down to D.C. Fed Chair Jerome Powell says it's not the central bank's job to comment on tariff policy. He was making remarks before the House Financial Services Committee yesterday. He described economic growth as strong while emphasizing the Fed's commitment to keep inflation in check.
The Federal Reserve remains squarely focused on achieving our dual mandate goals of maximum employment and stable prices for the benefit of the American people. Despite elevated uncertainty, the economy is in a solid position.
But Powell says inflation's still above the Fed's 2% target, while it's still unclear what impact President Trump's tariffs will have on the economy. He also touched on economic uncertainty and the impact of policy changes from the White House.
Policy changes continue to evolve, and their effects on the economy remain uncertain. The effects of tariffs will depend, among other things, on their ultimate level. Expectations of that level, and thus of the related economic effects, reached a peak in April and have since declined.
While we're down in D.C., the Senate Majority Leader says lawmakers in his chamber will stay in the nation's capital until they pass President Trump's big, beautiful bill.
We have to get on this. We need to get it done. Failure here is not an option. And this is the fulfillment and implementation, this bill, of the president's agenda.
That's South Dakota Senator John Thune, who says he's confident the Senate will get the bill across the finish line, though it comes as there are some Republican holdouts who remain opposed to the bill, as they've put this self-imposed July 4th deadline to get it done. And, of course, that's getting closer.
We're hearing people out working, responding to their feedback and taking their input, trying to incorporate things into the bill that make it stronger and better. But we have to get this done, and I'm hopeful that we will succeed by the end of the week here in the Senate. And then we'll see what the House can do and if we can get it on the president's desk soon.
Yeah, but there are some big-name Republicans who are not on board just yet. Wisconsin Republican Ron Johnson has said the bill will add trillions to the national deficit.
It's securing the border. It's modernizing our military. It's making America energy dominant. It's tax relief for working families. It's reducing the size and scale and cost of government by getting rid of waste, fraud, and abuse. This is what the American people voted for.
Senator says he's confident he thinks he can get this through the Senate, get it done. 522. The NTSB blames Boeing and the FAA for that midair blowout during an Alaska Airlines flight last year. Nobody was injured, but you remember when this door plug panel blew out on a 737 shortly after takeoff. This was January of 2024.
The safety deficiencies that led to this accident should have been evident to Boeing and to the FAA.
Plane took off from Portland, returned to make an emergency landing. The NTSB chair said yesterday that the accident should have never happened. She says multiple systematic failures led to it, but investigators still don't know who forgot to replace 4 bolts back in the door plug. I mean, they're looking for somebody to blame, but they haven't found it.
Problems were identified in numerous Boeing internal audits across production lines, employee speak-up reports, quality alerts, and regulatory compliance issues.
Yeah, but somebody along that assembly line or somebody who was fixing the door didn't do it right.
The crew shouldn't have had to be heroes.
Yeah.
Because this accident never should have happened.
Now, they were quick to praise the crew for keeping everybody safe.
Crew knew precisely what to do. They acted without hesitation, and it saved lives. And yet the crew shouldn't have had to be heroes. Because this accident never should have happened.
5:23, President Trump's health secretary in the crosshairs of Democrats in the House during a hearing on his budget yesterday. They claim that this report that the health department put out was done by AI and that there was all kinds of mistakes in it about childhood diseases, all kinds of other things.
If somebody turned this in as an undergrad to their professor at UCLA, they would have received an F, sir. An F.
Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. acknowledged there were problems with citations, but he says they will be corrected. He says, no, this wasn't done by AI.
Numerous researchers and academics stated that they never wrote the papers as cited, or the papers cited didn't even exist altogether.
More amazing is that somebody actually read all these documents, because sometimes they're so big nobody reads them.
Citing references that don't even exist. That's lying and dishonest, sir.
And then Robert F. Kennedy Jr. yesterday pushing for Americans to wear tech that tracks their health. He thinks that will improve Americans' health.
We think that wearables are a key to the MAHA agenda, making America healthy again. And we are going to, my vision is that every American is wearing a wearable within 4 years.
That includes things like Fitbits, Apple Watches, in an effort to promote healthier lifestyles. 5:24. First tropical storm of the Atlantic hurricane season has formed. It's Tropical Storm Andrea. It is well away from land right now, which is typical for this time of year, but the National Weather Center says they're watching it.
First named storm of the season, but no threat to land. It's headed pretty quickly to the northeast. Maximum winds 40 miles per hour.
So Andrea, they say, is a good reminder to get your storm plans going now so you don't have to wait till the last minute. Of course, the real season doesn't heat up till later in the summer, like August and September. But, we've seen one or two up here. And, of course, down south, they see a lot of
We
them.
don't expect it to last very long, but it's just, it's just a reminder we're in hurricane season.
5:25, while we're in Florida, detectives there in a multi-agency task force made a big bust of fentanyl seizures, including 2 Mexican drug cartels. And they get so inventive of the way they try to sneak drugs anywhere, whether it be here in the U.S. or around the world. So this latest one surprised even the sheriffs who made this bust. They hid the fentanyl inside car batteries, and the car batteries still worked. So I don't know how they uncovered this, but they did.
On April 28th, we got 5 kilos from Mexico. And how were they delivering it to us? In batteries.
Yeah, and the fact that they were still working is amazing. The sheriff says those car batteries still could crank a car with as much as 5 kilos of fentanyl inside. They seized a total of 64 pounds. That's enough to kill 14.5 million people.
The battery still works, okay? So they rigged the battery so that it cranks the car.
Now, you think if they used all that for the good as opposed for sneaking in drugs, they may make some money that way.
That's enough to overdose and kill 14.5 million people.
Yeah, amazing job done by those Florida detectives to keep that off the streets. Bobby Sherman dead at the age of 81. His wife confirmed his death. The 1960s and 70s teen idol was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer He hit the top 10 on Billboard 100 with songs like that, Julie, Do You Love Me, Easy Come, Easy Go, and his top 3 hits, Little Woman. In addition to music, though, he did star in a TV series, but I thought this was really interesting, and I did not know this. He later embarked on a career far from show business with the L.A. Police Department and the San Bernardino Sheriff's Department. So he had like 2 or 3 different careers. This is a great song, though.
Being alone at night makes me sad, girl, yet brings me down alright. Tossing and turning and freezing and burning and crying all through the night. Whoa, Julie, 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 do you love me? Julie,
Yeah, anyway, sorry to see that he passed away, but it's so interesting that he became a cop later in life.
It's the 77 WABC News Hour.
Talking the news with Noam Laden.
All the news you need to know with Joe Nolan, traffic, Justin Ellick, sports. And now,
Talking the news with Noam
on 77 WABC.
Yes, that's me. Good morning. It is Wednesday, June 25th. Your forecast from the 77 WABC Weather Center. Sunshine, a few afternoon clouds. The high going to be 99. Tonight and overnight, partly cloudy, low 67, and then Thursday, much better. Sun and clouds, high 79. If you are walking out the door with us right now, so happy you are. 74 and clear in Riverhead out on Long Island. It's 78 and clear in Alpine over in New Jersey. And it's 83 and clear right outside our Midtown studios. One more day of this high heat and humidity. The high for Central Park reached 99 degrees yesterday. That's just shy of the 100 degrees that was predicted, but was still the hottest temperature recorded in New York City since July of 2012.
It's something I never got to experience this. The way I breathe, I get gassed out a lot faster. So if you're out there playing basketball, please make sure you hydrate.
Yeah, kids playing basketball yesterday. It was not enough to break records yesterday. It didn't matter if you were out. It was kind of hard to breathe.
Best place to be in town. Wonderful.
Yeah, she's talking about the pool.
Yeah, the water's spectacular. It's you jump in, you hang out for a while, and you cool down. It's perfect.
So looking at the numbers of people with outages, Con Ed, PSE&G, JCP&L, PSE&G, Long Island, all trying to keep the lights on, the electric going so you can keep the AC or a fan rolling. So they've been battling this. And so far, for the most part, unless you're one of those people who's in a house that doesn't have power, they're doing okay. Total number in the tri-state is about 25,000 that don't have power. Down on the subways, now the stations themselves are incredibly hot. There's not much you can do about that. But subway riders say the subways themselves have been nice and cool.
It felt good. There was AC, at least in this train car, so it wasn't that bad. So we'll see how the other rides go throughout my day.
And it was interesting to hear this one restaurant owner here in the city who says when the supply demand for energy is so high, it's hard to keep everything rolling. And he was having a hard time keeping the restaurant cool yesterday.
The AC just can never keep up with this kind of heat. It's hard on equipment. It's hard on compressors.
Yeah.
It's just hard on restaurants in general.
All right, so the good news again, 79 tomorrow, even cooler on Friday. So we'll be out of this heat wave one more day of it. 5:41, what a shocker in the political world. Democratic Socialist Zohran Mamdani declaring victory in the New York City Democratic primary last night. He had a rooftop party in Long Island City. He made the speech after Andrew Cuomo conceded the race.
8 months after launching this campaign, with the vision of a city that every New Yorker could afford, we have won. We have won from Harlem to Bay Ridge. We have won from Jackson Heights to Port Richmond. We have won from Maspeth to Chinatown. We have won because New Yorkers have stood up for a city they can afford.
Now, it was yesterday morning or so that some of the betting sites where you can place money on political races like this one, they all went for Mamdani. And you're like, wait, what do they know? But clearly they did know. Here was Andrew Cuomo conceding last night.
And I'm proud of the effort that we put forth, and I'm proud of the issues that we discussed. But tonight was not our night. Tonight was Assemblyman Mamdani's night, and he put together a great campaign, and he touched young people and inspired them and moved them and got them to come out and vote.
Andrew Cuomo did not say last night whether he would run in the fall as an independent. He didn't say that he wouldn't, but he didn't say that he would. Voters came out in the heat, not huge numbers, but they were out.
I know who I'm going to vote for, okay? I decided already. Cuomo.
I did my research this week to make sure I knew what I was going for, and I wanted to make sure that all the candidates aligned with my values.
Far and away, though, the most enthusiastic voters yesterday were the Mamdani ones.
It definitely seems the way that things have been trending. I feel like a lot of young people are really connecting with him. So, I could definitely see that happening.
I think it's exciting to have shake-up in the race.
Absolutely exciting. I think we need some hope right now. We need something that's different.
Whatever happens is going to be interesting come November. So Curtis Lewa, unopposed, so he is the Republican candidate for mayor. Eric Adams, he did not run. He's running as an independent, so that's two candidates. Mamdani winning the Democratic primary, that's three. If Andrew Cuomo decides to stay in, that's four. There'll be other independents as well, so there could be 5-6 candidates running in November. It'll be great. And nobody will cover it like 77 WABC, so keep it here through the fall election and, of course, after. 5:43, a portion of Interstate 287's closed after the extreme heat caused the roadway to buckle in two locations yesterday. The right lane on 287 South near Route 23, this is in Riverdale, it's closed. The left and center lanes remain open, and the left and center lanes at Brook Valley Road Bridge in Montville are also closed. Of course, Joe Nolan will have a whole lot more on that coming up this morning. 5:44. Let's go up to the Bronx, where a 22-year-old shot and killed yesterday, Morris Heights section. Authorities say they got a call that a man had been shot in the head on Cedar Avenue. Neighbors freaked out.
Makes me feel bad because I'm young too, so I don't want anything like that to happen to me. I don't know how it happened though so far, but it's really sad. Thank God the police are here to keep us safe, but it's definitely a concern for me and my family.
No, we don't have a motive. We don't know who the gunman is. There was a BMW with bullet holes in it. There's also damage to the front door of this car, so they think that has something to do with it. But when you talk to people in the neighborhood, they say they fear this is the beginning of a very violent summer in their neighborhood.
So young, so much going on. I feel like every time summer begins, there's always some type of violence going on. It's very unfortunate.
As of last night, police had not released the victim's name. In a moment, we'll tell you how a portion of one Queens neighborhood has changed for the good. We'll get into that. First, 5:45, let's head over to the 77 WABC Sports Desk. Here's Justin Allen.
Thank you, Noam Layden. We'll start here on the diamond in Cincinnati. The Yankees lost their second straight to the Reds, this time 5-4 in 11 innings and surrendering the 3-game series in the process. Spencer Steer and pinch hitter Gavin Lux had run-scoring singles in the 11th inning, and Cincinnati rallied from a 3-run deficit to claim the victory after Aaron Judge scored on Connor Phillips' wild pitch in the 11th for a 4-3 New York lead. The Yanks lost for the 9th time in 12 games, and their AL East lead was cut to 1 game, its smallest since April. They dropped to 1-6 in extra innings this year and were 1-for-21 with runners in scoring position and losing the first 2 games of the series. Ben Rice homered and Anthony Volpe had a 2-run triple in the 4th inning as the Yankees built a 3-0 lead. And bidding to become the Major League's first 10-game winner, Carlos Rodon pitched 6 shutout innings in his starting effort. The finale of this 3-game series is on tap tonight in Cincy with the ace Max Fried scheduled to pitch for New York at what will be a 7:10 p.m. first pitch as they try to avoid a series sweep. As for the Mets at home in in Queens. They continued their losing ways as well in the form of a 7-4 loss to the Braves in the second game of a 4-game series against Atlanta. They took the Braves, that is, took advantage of 9 walks by 6 Mets pitchers. The Mets are 0-5 against their NL East rival this year, with all 5 losses coming in the past 8 days after getting an encouraging performance from starter Frankie Montas in his Mets debut. New York blew a 3-0 lead and lost for the 10th time in 11 games. Game 3 of this 4-game series is tonight at Citi Field. Clay Holmes starts in what will be a 7:10 p.m. first pitch from Queens. That is your Sports Gnome, and I'm Justin Ellick, 77 WABC.
WABC News Time 5:48. For years, neighbors in one Queens neighborhood have complained about rampant prostitution along Roosevelt Avenue. Now city officials say things are getting better there.
Roxanne, you don't have to put on the red light.
Yeah, the red light being turned off, it seems. Mayor Adams announcing overall crime is down 28% along the stretch between 74th Street and 111th Streets in Elmhurst and Corona. He credits an effort involving cops, the fire department, and health and sanitation during Operation Restore Roosevelt that kicked off 8 months ago. Thousands of arrests made linked to brothels, retail theft, and the sale of stolen goods, among other crimes. The operation also led to the busting of the 18th Street gang. Police say they're behind the prostitution, as well as selling drugs in the area. James Flippin for 77 WABC News.
Out to Newark at 5:49. 5 people shot, 1 killed in Newark yesterday. This was a shooting that happened right on the East Orange Newark border. And what we come to find out, so we have 5 shot, 1 killed. And what were they fighting over? Which town is better, East Orange or Newark? I mean, you can't make this stuff up. Here's Mayor of Newark, Ross Baraka.
It happened on the border of Newark and East Orange. We think there may be some disputes between cities. Obviously the police are working hard at this.
So 4 men, including 2 19-year-olds, a 24-year-old, a 26-year-old, taken to hospital, gunshot wounds. Newark police back out posting flyers looking for information that could lead them to the shooter. They don't have them yet. And this one neighbor, he has bullet holes in his front of his home.
I was in bed, I heard the shooting. I was like, I called my son, said, "You're okay? See what's going on?" And they're looking around, they're searching all these neighbors' houses, flashing lights, looking for bullets.
And neighbors say, unfortunately, this kind of thing has become all too common.
That's why I walked with her. Like, it's better to walk in pairs because it's just scary.
I just hope and pray things get better.
5:50, we go from New Jersey out to Long Island. A bus fell through the pavement of a parking garage in North New Hyde Park yesterday. I don't know if it's related to the heat or not. Nassau County Police responding to Marcus Avenue. This was about 6 o'clock last night. Images of the incident show the back end of a bus that fell through the ground floor of the parking garage. There was nobody aboard except the driver. The front of the bus wound up suspended in the air. Here was a witness.
The minute the back came, it just collapsed. It was like a boom, and the first thought was, how many people are on the bus? Can we get them off? But there were nobody there, so that was a good thing.
No one was injured. Only the driver was on the bus at the time. Employees of the garage said the noise from the impact was just jolting. 5:31. Let's stay out on Long Island as those ICE raids continue across the tri-state. There is some fear and uncertainty in some Latino communities, and some of them are canceling events. A Suffolk County organization that raises money for cancer patients has been forced to make a tough decision. The Committee of Latin American Ladies helps women, children battling cancer, and normally they hold this annual barbecue where they raise money. Well, they say the fear of ICE raids is going to keep people away, so they decided just to cancel the thing.
It's upsetting. And it was a really hard decision because, this is something we've been doing for years. We're being impacted by lots of raids in this area. People are worried, documented or undocumented.
Their traditional July barbecue in Central Islip has raised about $60,000 so far. It helped about 15 different family. Funds go towards medical treatment for women, children, sometimes funerals too. People who have been benefited from this organization upset to see that they've canceled this.
It's a very sad situation. Organization, they didn't help with just financial, but emotional support.
The work we do is all from the heart. We all volunteer for this.
So the Latin American ladies say they hope to resume their public fundraising next next year. 5:53. In Toms River, New Jersey, several dozen homeless people have been notified to remove all their all their belongings from public spaces. In this case, it's a parking garage. Can you guys just shut that door? Can you shut that door? Thank you. It's really hard to concentrate to do my show when you're talking right in front of me. Yeah, here, you can apologize to you.
I apologize.
Okay, thank you.
You're still a douchebag.
That's what I was thinking about you when you were talking in front of me. In Toms River, several dozen homeless people have been notified that they have to remove their belongings. There's this fight and battle that's gone on between homeless people in Toms River and the mayor there. Of course, there's people who don't want to see them on the streets, and so they've told them they have to get their stuff off the streets. Now, people who are advocates for the homeless upset about this.
Unfortunately, I wish that type of notice had come out last week before the mayor decided to unilaterally start throwing people's property away, which is a disturbing, scary reality.
Others were complaining that it was a bad timing, of course, during the heat wave, but these people are living outdoors. The mayor there says this has to do with helping these people out. Of course, it's unsightly in town in Toms River.
These are people who are already vulnerable and probably walking around with whatever in the world that they own. And to just turn around and have our government officials come and seize their property and then toss it away and discard it. So that's a hard reality for anybody to deal with.
Yeah, 5:54. The New Jersey State Fair in the Meadowlands going to be a hold for 2 years now.
It's because of FIFA Club World Cup and the 2026 FIFA World Cup soccer that the event is being paused, an annual event since 1986. The international soccer tournaments include matches being played at MetLife Stadium, so the Meadowlands parking lot not available as it normally would be. The fair typically runs from June 20th through July 7th, and fair officials say they look forward to coming back bigger and better than ever in 2027. James Flippin for 77 WABC News.
Of course, they have competition from that new mall that's in East Rutherford that has the American Dream. It has an entire amusement park under the roof there, along with lots of other stuff, a ski slope. So I think that may be part of the issue, too. 5:55, after it became the talk of the town for years, a makeshift aquarium set up in the runoff of a leaky hydrant. Do you remember this last year? So there was a leaky hydrant in Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn, and some of them came up with the idea of using the pooled water around the hydrant to set up a aquarium, and they put goldfish in there and beautiful rocks, and it became this viral thing, like millions of views. But then the FDNY came in and fixed the fire hydrant, and so there was no longer any water, and so now they've set up an aquarium, like a small tank, and this has become the new Bed-Stuy aquarium.
Kids would come here after school, people walking their dogs and stuff. It was like a fun little neighborhood thing. Hopefully this iteration lasts a little longer and maybe everybody's happy with this one.
Yeah, so their neighborhood set up this new version. People who live around there say that this is kind of one of those things that brings the neighborhood together. So they were out looking at the fish in this tiny tank yesterday.
I'm happy that they brought the pond back. I've been here since the beginning, so it's nice to see how even the decorations and all the people that's coming out.
But then you had the animal rights activists yesterday. This guy, John DiLeonardo from the Humane League of Long Island, says this is terrible to put fish in a tank out in the heat with no filter. Maybe they're not getting enough food.
This isn't an aquarium. This is a tiny tank with a few fish in it, with no proper enrichment, no filter, and no temperature control in a heat wave. So this is incredibly irresponsible.
All right. Well, either way, that aquarium is up this morning. And one last note before I go to traffic and transit. I've gotten tons of messages, direct messages on Instagram, some of them on Facebook, people asking how I am. I was in a really violent head-on collision in Goshen on Friday. And the good news is I'm doing better. Every part of my body hurts as I sit here this morning, but I'm alive. And I can't implore you enough to wear seatbelts, because when I look at my body and I can see the imprint of the seatbelt, that is what 100% saved my life. Even if you're back of a cab, front of a car, wear that damn seatbelt, because in my case, no doubt I would not be here today. And, well, then you'd have somebody else doing the news hour. And well, potentially you might think that's a good thing. 5:57, traffic, transit on the 7s. Here's Jill Nolan.
Don't say that. No, that's
well.
not
There's somebody out there who's like, God, I wish I'd ended a different way.
No, but I will tell you about seatbelts. So when I used to fly in the helicopter every day, you'd look down and you'd see these accidents, and some of them would look like minor little things, but there'd be a fatality. You'd find out later that there was no seatbelt, and then you'd fly over some of these things that were just these horrific accidents, and people walk away and they all had their seatbelts on. So
yeah, well,
you got it. You always it worked. They work. They definitely work. Obviously, they
do. And and I even think about the car itself. And I don't want to be a free commercial, but this Honda saved my life too. I look at it, and the impact was all in the front of the car. And I think, like, if it hadn't been made that way, I wouldn't be here. It's like kind of amazing that because there's nothing left of the car itself. It's done. So
with the crumple zones and the airbags and everything like that.
The technology is amazing what they've done.
Yep, it truly is.
Thanks for listening to the News Hour with Noam Laden. You can hear the News Hour with Noam Laden weekday mornings at 5 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?